Alright, guys. This is the Black Truther here, aka K Reed. Thanks for coming and checking in with me. And I want to talk about the recent terrorist attacks that happened. What was it? Just around New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, whenever it was. It was a couple days ago. A lot of people are talking about it, and people, all have different kind of theories. And I mean, me personally, I think I see it for what it is. Well, we're just gonna go over everything. I'm not gonna cover the Cybertruck attack. I think that one's different. I don't really see them being related. I know people are trying to, link them together, but I don't see it. But I'm gonna focus more so on the New Orleans attack, and then we're gonna go into how this is connected to the Middle East and what's going on over there. All right. So first, we're gonna start off with a video where my man right here. I don't know this guy's name. I see him on Twitter all the time, but he's gonna explain basically what's going on, kind of like the whole breakdown of what happened.
Boy, when I tell you 2025 is going to be year of the Psyops, believe me. So there was a horrific attack on Bourbon Street in New Orleans on New Year's where this car plowed into a crowd of people, got out and started firing at police. The suspect is Shamsuddin Shapoor, which is a 42-year-old real estate agent from Beaumont, Texas. Now, in this marketing video, he states that he's born and raised in Texas, lives in Houston, but there's a few things odd right off the bat that I found.
Born and raised in Beaumont, Texas, and now live in Houston. And I've been here all my life, with the exception of traveling for the military, where I spent 10 years as a human resources specialist and IT specialist.
Why does this video feel like a setup? Because he's giving vital information about his background instead of talking about real estate. Mind you, this is the only video he's posted on his YouTube back in 2020, then completely fell off. Then his real estate license actually expires in 2023 and he doesn't renew it. So this screams sleeper cell to me. Going back to the truck, so that flag that's covered up is an ISIS flag, and allegedly that's who he has allegiance to. Now here where it starts to get really weird. Ford's X account got hacked a few days ago saying all eyes on Gaza, Israel is a terrorist state, free Palestine, and Ford even made a statement saying their account was compromised and they did not make those posts. Then you have an attack with a Ford F-150 Lightning with an ISIS flag. What are the chances? And who could have hacked that Ford X account? Oh, I don't know, maybe a military IT specialist? But it doesn't stop there. This actual car was at the scene of another attack. Can anybody tell me why that same truck was in front of this Cybertruck that blew up in front of Trump Towers in Las Vegas? You can't make this shit up. Now,
I just want to be clear. I don't think he's saying that it's the exact same truck. He's just saying it's the same make and model, which is already weird in itself also.
this Cybertruck pulled up, parked, and then exploded with the driver inside. Now, obviously, they are sending a message to Elon and Trump. And who would willingly pull up just to unalive themselves like this? Sleeper cell. And I find this pretty odd that Elon reposts this on his X account saying, this Cybertruck looks like the future. This was a response to this post saying, this Cybertruck is on fire and this literally looks like the Cybertruck is exploding.
Symbolism, people. Symbolism, symbolism, symbolism. You're going to start to see... it's going to be very consistent within a lot of this stuff is the symbolism that they put out here.
It doesn't stop there. So you guys, on New Year's, the Empire State Building, the Washington Monument, and the U.S. Capitol get struck by lightning. You mean the same name, this truck, lightning, struck people in New Orleans. Got it. Also, they said that this truck was sitting on a dealership lot on December 14th, then got bought, then got put on Turo, which then he rented. Not to mention that Cybertruck that was in front of Trump Tower was also rented on Turo. Then the Airbnb he rents actually catches on fire and dozens of people had to evacuate.
Did you hear that? The Airbnb that the dude was staying in New Orleans just so happened to catch on fire. This is just insane.
How convenient. Wait, hold up. This is happening in the same city where the Super Bowl is happening this year, February 9th. Didn't the Super Bowl happen last year in Las Vegas on February 11th? So you have two attacks on the same day in both of these cities. And look at the dates
9/11.
9/11. Oh, they love their symbols.
Oh, yes, they
Now,
do.
since then, the governor declared a state of emergency in New Orleans and even postponed the Sugar Bowl. Now, the question is, are we really under attack? Because the FBI just found 150 homemade bombs in a Virginia home, which is one of the largest seizures they've ever had. Either way, I would keep my head on a swivel, especially if you're in a major city, because it seems like somebody's sending a message. I'll keep you guys updated on any developments, but let me know what you think about this down below. Boy.
All right, guys. To me, now I just want to give a quick, opinion on my side. To me, this is what we're looking at right here. Psyop, psychological operations, are operations to convey selected information and indicators to audiences to influence their emotions, motives, and objective reasoning, and ultimately the behavior of governments, organizations, groups, and individuals. So what it is basically a group or organization doing certain doing certain things to mold a narrative for the people to, obviously believe, to take in. Another thing is that both of this attack and the attack with the Cybertruck, both men were former military, and they both spent time at Fort Bragg. Fort Bragg has been in the news ever since the 90s, where you would have, some military guy, formerly he had a stint at Fort Bragg, and then all of a sudden something happens. There's some connection with Fort Bragg. So let's check this. My guy right here says Fort Liberty. I think they changed the name of it. Fort Liberty, formerly known as Fort Bragg, might need an intervention. No disrespect to the outstanding servicemen and women, but can we start asking questions? I mean, this right here, this is, I believe, 3 or 4 guys. Oh, and also this guy right here, that's, if you can't recognize the guy in the middle, he was the guy who attempted the second assassination attempt on Trump, and he spent some time at Fort Bragg. Quite weird, right? So, what is the current situation at Fort Bragg? That's a good question. 2 American veterans are radicalized to commit acts of violence on the same day. So what? Okay. So the guy on the right, he was a Green Beret. This guy right here, he was in the military. He was in for 10 years. He had, I think they said he did 2 stints in Afghanistan. So you mean to tell me that he went to Afghanistan? He went to fight over in the Middle East against ISIS and all these things. But then all of a sudden reforms back and decides to join them? Really? Okay. That's kind of weird. Fort Bragg, the same military base that Ryan Ruth, that was the guy from the assassination attempts, visited over 100 times before he tried to assassinate Donald Trump. Now, a lot of people make the claim that, these military, well, we know by fact that these military bases have been engaging in human experiments, mind control, things of this nature, right? A lot of you might have heard of MK Ultra. Now, pause. Might get a little tinfoil here, okay? But I do want to show you a video of something called, what's it called? This is when they have the technology to be able to shoot voices in people's heads to make them hear voices. This is a real thing. This isn't fake. This isn't, some made up stuff. We'll play a video of a former CIA agent who talks about, using this technology on former school shooters. Let's check this out.
You can use this artificial intelligence voice in the head to break down the ego and control an individual.
Ultimately, yes. You can't plug your eardrums. You can't stop the sound. A lot of the targets are tricked into believing evil aliens have abducted their brains. Demons.
They're tricked.
Yes.
How are they tricked?
They're told.
By who?
By the voices. A lot of these school shootings, I think that you hear about on the news. They hear voices.
We've learned that Cruz told the BSO detective that he heard a demon in his head.
And police now say he also heard voices.
Heard voices in his head.
How often do we hear that? Huh? When someone does something crazy, it goes and they shoot up a school or, kidnap and hostile or whatever. They always say, I had these voices in my head and they were telling me what to do. And what do people always say? Oh, he's schizophrenic. Oh, he's crazy. It's like Dave Chappelle said, it's so easy to just, use that label of just, they're crazy. I think a lot of this stuff, again, this goes back to the Psyop, to control, controlling and making a narrative. And then when things happen over and over and over, that narrative carries over and over and over, right? Instead of saying, well, maybe this one might be different, or maybe this one might be different. Yeah, food for thought.
The scripts, they're called, and they're meant to confuse, the very derogatory. That's just typical breakdown. And why would you want to break down the ego of that person? To rebuild it. So this gets into creating Manchurian candidates.
Police have released video made by the man who opened fire at Florida State University.
In Project Soul Catch, I referred to a Myron May as a psycho bomb. They didn't care who the target was. They were just trying to make him explode and do something bad. He was a lawyer trained there. His reasoning why he shot up the school was he needed news publicity to make sure people understood this was real. And he left the video testimony.
As sick as this may sound, I've even had stalkers follow me into church.
He believed government stalkers were harassing him and using a direct energy weapon to hurt him.
But he gave out 7 packages in the mail, and the FBI intercepted them all.
What were these packages?
Just information. Just information.
Key information that we can't have the public know, obviously.
He then opened fire at an FSU library, wounding 3 people. He was killed in a shootout with police.
If these people do explode and do something bad like this, there's absolutely no way to prove that there's been any sort of manipulation to the brain. In this guy's case, he talked about it. I mean, obviously he talked.
But it was covered up.
The way they write the article, he sounds like a crazy person.
Yeah.
And there you go. That's how they do it, right? And in this case that we're dealing with now, instead of him just being a crazy person, all of a sudden, he got infiltrated by ISIS. He started to go with ISIS and started to really? That easy? A military man who fought overseas for over 10 years? I don't know. Smells fishy to me. Smells fishy. And so, also, I want to get back to the actual event. So the guy, we all know kind of what happened. He plowed through people and then he got out and started shooting. And then he had an ISIS flag in the back. To me, the ISIS flag looks a little suspect, but I won't even go there. We'll grant that. That's fine. But what also felt very weird, I think it happened today, it was today. The FBI goes and they make a search warrant of the guy's house, and they go knock down the door and do a search warrant. Then, what's really weird is that after the search warrant was done and everything, they allowed reporters to go inside and take pictures and show everybody. Mind you, you got to remember in these type of instances, when When they're putting something in front of you, they want you to know that, right? Nothing kind of just goes, oops, they just, kind of slip by and no. When they put something overtly in front of you like that, they want you to take that in, right? The people are always on a need to know basis, right? I wouldn't even say that, really, huh? So let's check this out. I think this lady's from the New York Post, I believe. And so let's see. So somehow a news reporter is allowed inside the New Orleans terrorist home this soon after the attack. You would think it would be a crime scene or something, right? No, they let her come in. So we're gonna watch this, and I think it's very odd, quite odd.
We're here inside the New Orleans terrorist home. You can see that it's been clearly destroyed, the door at least, from the FBI raid yesterday. But if we walk through the home, we see some signs of what he was up to. He had this work area here, lots of different chemicals splayed around, and different electronics. This is, again, a work setup.
So they just allow them to go inside, touch stuff, look around. What? In what world? In what world?
Left receipts, just very unkempt in here. If we go over here, actually, you can see the Department of Justice documents here, the search warrant, and
They're allowing them to video the search warrant? Really? I mean, this blows my mind.
the property that they recorded here.
Look, and then they show all the things that they took. An itemized receipt, if you will. A receipt of property. Sulfuric acid, acetone, pistol primers box, burner with white residue. I mean, blue crimping. This is just odd, weird.
There seems to be a lot of chemicals. Again, just left in disarray. There's a bedroom back here, and what appears to be his collection of religious.
Okay, now watch this. Pay attention to this, because I think this is very telling right here.
Materials, his Qurans, an open Quran with a passage there, as well as even the Bible here.
They zoom in on the Quran, and from what I read, somebody said that the passage that they happen to be on is something about martyrdom. Hey, I'm just this is what they said. They said it's oh my God. So he just happens to have his Quran wide open out, and it's on a page about martyrdom. Who would have thought?
Here, but mostly books on Islam and his prayer rug just to the left of me here.
Oh, his prayer rug over there, huh? Under the, what is that, a dartboard? What is that? Come on.
And then if we go back, there's another bedroom here. You can see he left all these belongings, contact lenses, personal belongings, bathroom.
I don't think he was
This seems
coming
to be
back.
some sort of workspace, again, with other chemicals here, the light's still on, some kind of station set up here, we're not really sure what that was for. And, what we can assume was also a bedroom. You can see the clothes left here. And
Oh, look at that.
just
Look. Oh, what's that? Do you know what that is? That scarf? I think you know what it is. It's the scarf from Palestinians who are Free Palestine. I think I think Arabs were too. It's called I believe a kafefe, I think that's what it's called. But it is a symbol of resistance from the Arabs too. And it just look how it's just right in the front, huh?
a sign that someone was here up until those last few moments when neighbors said he left just before the New Year's holiday, saying he was done with his lease, it was up, and he was on his way to New Orleans where he would live there. Didn't take any furniture because he said his new home would be furnished. That's all we know so far.
Now, so that just happened. I believe that was today. And now, after this happens, of course, we have the DA of New Orleans.
Things are going to have to change.
They're already starting with the extra tyranny, okay? They are going to use this, and they are going to clamp down hard, right? Look, so more cameras will prevent radicalized lunatics from jumping the sidewalk in a truck 2 feet from a police car, stop them from mowing people down, shooting them in potential. And see, this is the problem. They can't stop these things. They will continue to tighten the noose as much as they can, but they can't stop stuff like this, as we see. But yet they will create the facade like they can. Give us more power. Give us more power, and we'll keep you safe. You can't. All right. You can't have liberty and what is it? What's the phrase? Freedom and safety. That's what it is. I think Ben Franklin has like a quote where I can't remember the quote, but it's something like somebody who sacrifices freedom for safety deserves neither, or something like that. Which is true. You can't. You got to have either or. You got to be able to want to protect yourself. And in America, we have that right. But, yeah. So this is the New Orleans DA. Of course, he's supported by, and advocates for implementing surveillance measures similar to those in Europe as a defense against terror attacks.
Just after 9/11, I remember a time when I could run from my car to the gate that kept its flight. After 9/11, we realized we need to do things very, very differently so that we can all arrive at our destination safely. I think you're going to see a lot of things change in the city of New Orleans. And actually, I think you're going to see a lot of things change in this country in terms of how we handle large-scale events, where there's pedestrian access and where vehicles are allowed. I think you're going to see things change in terms of the level of surveillance that we have in this country. We push back against some of that, but when you look at places like the UK and other European places where CCTV is very commonplace and used proactively so that it can look for signs or indications of an attack, I think you're going to start seeing those things in this city because I'm going to be pushing for them. And you're going to probably see them in a lot of other places that are destination cities like the city of New Orleans.
Pushing for more tyranny, baby. More tyranny. That's what they want. More tyranny. Right? So, and then also, what was I found this very interesting was there was a podcast. Some people might know who he is. I've seen the guy before, but I think his name is like John Rich or something like that. This lady, she went on this podcast. She's a former CIA agent, and she basically came out and said, and I think this is last year in 2024. She basically came out and said, hey, by next year, they're going to be doing... She basically called what just happened. And, she basically says it's gonna keep happening. And she had... she called it by the T.
How many people... How many fighters do you think we can expect at each attack?
Well, the 1,000 is all of them, so we're calling it an al-Qaeda planned attack, but within those 1,000 terrorists, some of them are ISIS. Because...
So she's saying that because of the border, she's saying 1,000 people, 1,000 or 1,500 Al-Qaeda, ISIS, whatever, they're here, and they know they're here, and they're making plans to do the attacks.
They want ISIS to be blamed. I think the more of the fighter types are going to be ISIS because then if their car, that they talk, I'm ISIS. I think of more of the suicide bombers are going to be Al-Qaeda.
I think these attacks will happen simultaneously throughout the United States, or will they be one day here, next day here, another one over here next week?
So they want them coordinated. I don't know if coordinated means all at the same time, or if coordinated means We do it Monday, we do it Tuesday, we do it Wednesday, we do it Thursday, we do it Friday, we just do 5 straight days.
Oh, you know that?
But they want it coordinated.
Oh, they do. Did you get that memo?
What kind of places do you think they're going to target?
So this is what's complicated. So Al-Qaeda's preference, as you can imagine, is symbols of the U.S. or anything that causes economic damage, right? Capital is a great symbol. I feel like bridges or any kind of public transportation always matters because it puts costs against us and it causes fear. But here's where it gets complicated. So remember, the terrorists might have their goal is they're going to attack the metro in D.C., right? But remember, some of these terrorists are going to be ISIS. And remember, they can change locations. So the ISIS guy might go down the metro and say, there's not many people down here, I'll kill 20, but there's a event going on, I'm going to go up there, right? Because ISIS is a little different. ISIS just wants mass casualty. Iranian terrorists in general just leaving Afghanistan, a lot of them are coming up through the Darien Gap to the border, and there was a big push, right? Get in the U.S. while you can. Now, not all those Al-Qaeda's attackers, right? But they came in with fake Afghan passports, they came in with fake Syrian passports, fake Turkish passports. Those are kind of the three preferences because they're easiest to get. And then if our Border Patrol agents, a lot of them haven't been overseas, right? If an Egyptian shows up at the border with a Syrian passport, he's going to know that person wasn't.
Okay. So they know all this. Somehow. I mean, I don't know. They know all this. And she's basically saying that this is going to happen. And then it happens. Right? Now, my theory on this is that I go back to this. Psyops. What would be the gain from doing something like this? Well, we do know in the past they've done false flags to create support for a war or something to that effect, right? What's going on in the Middle East right now, right? We have our greatest ally who's out there, and they just took Syria, right? They're in Lebanon right now, trying to take Lebanon, right? And we already know that Netanyahu and Trump, they basically blamed Iran for his first assassination attempt. And they said the guy was in cahoots with Iran, right? We didn't see no evidence or anything, but they continued to slowly bring up Iran. And then I think back to General Wesley Clark, this man right here. Back in 2007, 2008, he did this interview where he talked about memos that were going around the government, the Department of Defense or the State Department or whatever. And those memos spoke about America going to war with 7 countries in 5 years, right? 7 countries in 5 years. Now, obviously, the 5 years, that didn't work out. But I want you to listen to what he says. And then I will expound on what I think, what this means.
Right after 9/11, about 10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld and Deputy Secretary Wolfowitz. I went downstairs just to say hello to some of the people on the Joint Staff who used to work for me. And one of the generals called me and he said, "Sir, you gotta come in. You gotta come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, "No." He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, "We're going to war with Iraq. Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess they don't know what else to do." So I said, "Well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al-Qaeda?" He said, No. He says, "There's nothing new that way. They just made the decision to go to war with Iraq." He said, "I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we've got a good military and we can take down governments." And he said, "I guess if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail." So I came back to see him a few weeks later, And by that time, we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, "Are we still going to war with Iraq?" And he said, "Oh, it's worse than that." He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper. He said, "I just got this down from upstairs," meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today. And he said, "This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years."
And I want you to pay attention to the countries that are told, that they speak about. Pay attention.
Starting with Iraq, and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran.
Finishing off with Iran. Why? Because Iran was the biggest at the time. Besides, Iraq. They were already in Iraq, and that was Saddam Hussein. Libya, we took down when Obama was around. Remember Hillary Clinton, Gaddafi. They got him up out of there. Somalia and Sudan, where they basically enrich resistant fighters. Same thing that they did in Syria, where they go in and they create an insurgency and they arm the resistance to attack the government or whoever's in charge, create chaos, right? That's exactly what happened in Syria just now, recently. But Syria, we had a tough time in Syria. Remember, Obama was trying to do that back in 2010, 11, 12 or whatever, right? But we were never able to actually get through. Lebanon, they're bombing Lebanon right now. They're taking land in Lebanon. Syria, they just took out Assad, and Israel has carved out a big portion of Syria. And we already know about Iraq, right? So, in Iran, it's the last piece of the puzzle. But then I was thinking, what puzzle? Are they just going to take over these things? Or what is this about? And this is where it all lies. This is the final piece of the puzzle. Greater Israel. Greater Israel, ladies and gentlemen. This is Greater Israel. This is Israel's dream. Not only dream, but a prophecy, they say, that's religion-based. They believe that this area right here, that's the promised land. That's Greater Israel. They want to take all that land. This is why they just took Syria. They're taking some of Syria, right? Lebanon's right up here. Jordan, which they've already basically kind of owned Jordan. And some of Saudi Arabia. And remember, some of Saudi Arabia is in cahoots with the West, right? Taking some of Iraq. And even, so this is from, what they say is from the Euphrates River, which is right here, all the way to the Nile. They even have a patch that the IDF wears of the Greater Israel. That is the final plan. That is the goal. Greater Israel. All starts to make sense. So then you have, so it's interesting that right before Trump gets in office, we had these attacks. And remember, Trump was given $100 million from who? Miriam Adelson, who is the wife of Sheldon Adelson, who are devout Israelis that basically want to take over. They want Trump to be able to give them the okay to take Gaza and the West Bank. It all fits together so smoothly once you really think about it. And so we'll just end on this last note. This is Jeffrey Sachs. He used to work in the United States government. And he talks about, see, this is another picture of Greater Israel right here. And he talks about the final, the goal, the final nail in the coffin. And a lot of people say, well, why would America do that? Okay? Remember, America, without Israel, America has no purpose to be in the Middle East. This is all for Israel. This is all for them. And we stick our noses into stuff that we got no business doing. It has no benefit to us. And so when we get these attacks, like, that happened in New Orleans, this is because of our relationship with Israel. And the Middle Eastern guys, they've been saying this. Osama bin Laden said that, right? Now, take for what it's worth, with a grain of salt there. But this is the whole idea, is Israel using America, and our, empire and our imperialism to be able to take more land and carve out more of the Middle East for themselves. Let's check it out.
No, we're going to have Greater Israel, and we're just going to bash anybody that doesn't like it.
What is Greater Israel?
Greater Israel means either that Israel controls not only its geographic territory, but that it essentially controls or annexes the West Bank, the Golan Heights, which they just enlarged, Gaza, and East Jerusalem. So everything that was captured in 1967, Netanyahu explicitly said, we're never giving that back. There are religious zealots, I would use even stronger terms, who use the book of Joshua, which is 2,700 years ago, that said, well, God gave us everything from the river in Egypt, meaning the Nile, to the Euphrates. And there are zealots in Israel, and they're in the government, who believe, yes, this is God's ordinance. We're going to take whatever we want.
So don't think for a second that the government, the Zionists that are in our government, would push back against Israel in the sense of to kill Americans and have these terrorist attacks to drum up support for a war against Iran. Don't think for a second they wouldn't do that, okay? 9/11. Come on. People got to use their heads here. You got to get out the emotion. I think a lot of people get into, they take their emotions and bring it with them to make a lot of these, to think about a lot of this stuff. It's really right in front of your face. It's really overt, honestly. But, hey, what do I know, right? I'm just some black guy who's a Detroit Lions fan, right? Come on. What do I know about connecting dots, right? Oh, man. Well, if you stayed this long and you watched the whole video, man, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I am the Black Truther. Here is my my Twitter handle, @EvilBrady5959. If you follow me there, probably start. I also, stream on Kick. I usually do mostly Fortnite on there with my son, but yeah, man, check me out and keep your eyes open. Right?